We are living through the most extreme social experiment in human history, and most people don't even realize it's happening. In this video, I'll reveal why solitude, not loneliness, is the real epidemic that's sweeping America. And the data is pretty shocking. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why this self-imposed isolation poses a far greater threat than feeling lonely, and how AI might be the final piece that makes our retreat from each other permanent. I'm Evan Goldstein. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a data scientist. I'm building the AI Capitalist channel to talk to the leaders and the thinkers, like you, about navigating this brave new world of thinking machines. In 1950, the sociologist David Reisman published his landmark work, The Lonely Crowd. In it, he documented America's shift from a society of inner-directed individuals to other-directed people seeking social approval. To promote the book, Reisman appeared on a new medium called television, ironically using the very technology that would accelerate the social isolation that he warned about. After his TV appearance, Reisman received thousands of letters from viewers who felt seen and understood. Many of them wrote about watching his segment alone in their living rooms, surrounded by neighbors similarly isolated in their own homes, all connected through airwaves rather than conversation. One viewer poignantly told him that, "We've created machines to bring us together, yet I've never felt more alone." 7 decades later, that television set has been joined by smartphones, social media, and by AI companions. The lonely crowd that Reisman described has evolved into what might be called the connected solitude of modern America, where there's more digital connections and we're all more digitally linked together than ever, but we're physically apart. This is the most extreme social experiment in human history, and most people don't even realize that it's happening. Now, journalist Derek Thompson recently wrote an essay on the cover of The Atlantic for February called The Antisocial Century. It's a wide-ranging dive into the trends that have shaped Western society over the past 3 decades, particularly this idea of rising solitude, as he calls it. Thompson's piece in The Atlantic, The Antisocial Century, kicks off with a striking scene. A Mexican restaurant where the bar that once buzzed with conversation has been transformed into a silent depot for to-go bags. It's the perfect metaphor for what's happening across America. We're retreating from public spaces and from each other. And the data backs this up too. A whopping 74% of restaurant businesses now comes from takeout and delivery. And that's up from 61% pre-pandemic. Americans are spending less time with other people than has ever been recorded since 1965. With face-to-face socializing dropping by over 20% between 2003 and 2023. So dropping 1% every year, year on year. For unmarried men and for young people under 25, that figure jumps to more than 35%. Even during the few times that people venture out, they're opting to dine alone. Open table data shows that solo dining is up 29% in just 2 years, with the top reason being people's desire for me time. This mirrors what happened with entertainment. We went from movie theaters being social hubs to becoming homebodies glued to our screens. The typical American buys just 3 movie tickets per year, but watches about 19 hours of TV weekly. Now, this shift over to solitude isn't just changing restaurants and recreation, it's reshaping our homes, our relationships, and even our politics. Young people are hanging out 50% less than they did in the early 90s, and American adults are spending an additional 99 minutes at home daily compared to 2003. Our apartments are designed with maximum screen time in mind. TV mounts in every room, growing private spaces, and shrinking common areas. Thompson argues that solitude and the loneliness aren't one and the same. Problem isn't that we're feeling lonely. Some surveys are actually showing that loneliness is declining. It's that we're choosing isolation and we don't feel the biological urge to seek social connections. We're being manipulated by convenience to stay home, even though research shows that activities at home correlate with reduced happiness. And the consequences are pretty far-reaching. This retreat into private bubbles coincided with increasingly toxic politics, where we demonize opponents that we never have to face in person. Without the middle ring of community relationships, what Thompson calls the village, we lose the arena where we learn tolerance and compromise. Technology further fragments our experiences, and it creates personalized content bubbles that leave us with fewer shared reference points. Now, with AI companions on the rise, a retreat from human connection risks becoming even more profound. Things are only going to get messier if we don't first recognize what we're up against and then actually try to sort it out. Now, I see 2 paths we could take. One goes to a beautiful garden, and the other leads to a barren desert. The garden needs us to come together and take action. The desert requires nothing. It's the easy route. It's the default path, and it's the one that we're already on. And honestly, it's where we're going to find ourselves stuck unless, as Thompson, social psychologist, Judy Haidt, and a bunch of others have said, unless we fix the wrong turns that we've made. If you know how the world operates, especially this tendency to resist change, you're going to understand why I'm not feeling super hopeful in this episode. The whole thing with Meta AI's generated content creators, which I mentioned not too long ago in a previous episode, is just one small piece of a much larger issue. That episode covered artificial, fake social media profiles of people were designed to interact with you using AI and be kind of your fake friends. Meta put that project on hold for now because of the backlash, but they'll be back. This time a bit smarter after their mistakes, with our energy to push back a bit worn down, and their money stash is still overflowing. But if you want to see the bright side, here's one. The world may be slow to change, but as the saying goes, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the earth. Just don't count on anyone handing you that lever. You're going to have to fight for it. Now, I recently went out with my family to dinner. It's Chinese food, of course, and I think that we all realize that somehow the food just tastes better when it's served straight from the kitchen on a plate rather than arriving at your house an hour after it's cooked, marinating in its own plastic container. The food obviously took forever to actually make, which is weird because the restaurant was empty, but the kitchen was loud, and lo and behold, there were streams of delivery people coming and going, taking the So why are so many people doing takeout? Now, it's all about convenience. We've got TV, we've got Netflix, we've got computer games, and our super powerful phones that are just soaking up all our time. And honestly, it's like there's some weird connection that keeps us holed up indoors, like vampires trying to escape the sun, even in Arizona. No wonder we're all a bit low on vitamin D. Now, Thompson shares a pretty story backed by both stories and statistics. We're not out, and we're definitely not mingling with others. Now, Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, nails it when he points out that we're not exactly living the social animal's life that we used to talk about. One of the restaurant owners in DC told Thompson that people feel uncomfortable in the world today. And now that hits hard because I often work from home, so I get it. I'm venturing out way less than I did before. Just like people who don't go to the Chinese restaurant I went to, I hardly ever hit the streets. Getting ready means I have to shower and dress up, and that's just too much hassle unless there's something seriously fun waiting for me out there. And sometimes not even then. Don't get the wrong idea. I do love going out. It's just that I've shifted from casually hanging out all the time to making it a special choice. And we social creatures aren't fans of having to make those choices. Part of it is the job, but that's not the whole story. It affects me as a YouTube producer, but I think it applies to everyone, remote worker or not. Do you remember when the outside world had so much more fun to offer? There were fun plans, cool places, awesome people. Now, I'm not sure that's still the case. My home nowadays feels like this huge space, even though I'm not going anywhere. The gadgets and the devices that we own, and even the dusty books, they show just how much our home has replaced the outside world. And you can't even pretend that you're reading as much as you used to. Your screen time says otherwise, unless you're reading off your screen. When it comes to planning the perfect Sunday, it's a no-brainer. You just ask Alexa to fire up Netflix and get Siri to order your Chinese food. When we say we live in our heads, it's not just some catchy phrase. Everything that we have comes from our thoughts. So why not just get the excitement that we need from our home gadgets? You can hardly tell the difference. Eating your Chinese food and binge-watching Squid Game 2 with Alexa and Siri is really all that you need. And I think that's why the movie The Matrix hit home so well. Most of us are dreaming of being Neo, but we would probably be more like Cypher, just happily plugged into the Matrix instead. But here's the catch. That's the lie that we keep telling ourselves. All the cool stuff that we have set up in our homes is just filling the gap that going out used to cover. We really shouldn't fixate on that, or on getting rid of the TV in the living room, the computer in the office, or the VR headset in the bedroom. We have to make going out more appealing, with a mix of fun and social options. And it's like Thompson says, degraded public spaces and degraded public life are literally just the flip side of our obsession with video games, phones, and the bigger, cushier private spaces. One of the most eye-opening things Thompson points out is that Americans, especially the younger crowds, are hanging out with each other less than at any time since 1965. Now, it turns out that this self-imposed solitude might just be the big social trend of the 21st century in America. And he's also saying something pretty unexpected. In the 1840s, when the telegraph was first introduced, a lot of social commentators and writers expressed concerns that were strikingly similar to those that are raised now by artificial intelligence in the retreat from face-to-face interaction. Henry David Thoreau, who famously retreated to Walden Pond in 1845 to experience deliberate solitude, talked about the telegraph's impact on society in his book Walden. Thoreau wrote that, quote, "We are in great haste to construct a magnetic telegraph from Maine to Texas. But Maine and Texas, it may be, have nothing important to communicate." He questioned whether this new technology, which allowed people to communicate across vast distances without meeting in person, was truly enhancing human connection or just creating an illusion. When the first transatlantic cable was completed in 1858, newspapers celebrated that London and New York were now just minutes apart rather than weeks. But the philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson worried that the private citizen might ask what all this swift telegraphy was for, if it only allowed people to learn immediately about far-off disasters that they could do nothing about. These 19th century concerns are mirroring our point about how technological convenience leads to physical isolation while creating a false sense of connection. Just as we now order takeout and stream entertainment at home rather than gathering in restaurants and theaters, telegraph users were starting to substitute distant, mediated conversation and communication for the village-level interactions that had previously defined their lives. The irony that Thoreau and Emerson identified, that technologies designed to connect us can actually increase our isolation, resonates deeply with the idea of AI becoming the final piece that makes our retreat from each other permanent. And if you feel you're getting value from this episode, I would appreciate it if you would push the like button. Pressing like lets me know that I'm making content you want to see, and it helps spread that content to others, so thank you for supporting AI Capitalist. A lot of people think that this isolation is just about loneliness, but solitude and loneliness are completely different. So how do we make sense of these seemingly conflicting ideas? Feeling lonely is your brain's way of nudging you to get out and meet people, so a little loneliness is okay, just like feeling hungry or anxious. But if you're okay with spending long stretches of time alone, it can mean that your inner alarm is broken. You might not feel lonely, even though you're missing out on connecting with others, and then suddenly, boom, that loneliness creeps in, and you realize that it's been piling up on you. As Thompson points out, Americans are diving deeper into solitude when the feelings of loneliness seem to be leveling off or even dropping. So this may not be the age of loneliness, it's the age of solitude, the age of the antisocial human. Now this whole shift away from craving the company of others toward being totally fine with being by ourselves has pushed me to make this video about AI and what's on the horizon. Without that social clock ticking away, we might just keep isolating ourselves instead of trying to change our ways. While AI might not be the ultimate boss of humanity, it definitely will be when it comes to how we socialize. The TV was a pretty harmless problem. You stayed home instead of going out. Phones are a bit trickier, and Thompson puts it well. Phones make solitude feel more crowded, but ironically, crowds feel more alone. As AI takes over, creating entertainment that's super personalized to our tastes and hidden desires, it's going to fill in any gaps that remind us that there's a whole world out there, if not necessarily for more fun, at least to cut down on our lonely feeling. I'm not about to list out all the books and the articles that have seen this coming because they pretty much nailed it. But Thompson's essay isn't just another prediction. While it's good to sound the alarm about the wolf coming, it's even better to rally everybody when it's actually here. And it's here. Thompson backs this up with solid data. And AI is advancing very quickly, but let's not just blame AI for everything. First it was TV, then computers, then video games, then phone, then the internet, followed by social media. The list just keeps growing. There's not one single reason for this whole situation that's been brewing for a century now. AI is just the latest player in a very long game, but it might be the last one. AI might just be the ultimate tool for maximizing solitude without ever feeling lonely, a state that Thompson sees as the real issue. It's a chilling vision, more of a heat death than a chaotic explosion, just an endless, heavy silence. So what kind of damage can AI really do when we're already cutting back on social time, even if it's potentially more dangerous than all the older technology? Thompson points out that the number of boys and girls who say they meet friends almost every day after school has dropped by almost 50% since the early 90s, with the biggest decline happening in the 2010s. We're already not socializing that much, so what's AI really going to change? If it's all about making entertainment cooler, is that really a bad thing? Not so fast. AI might just reveal, perhaps too late, the harsh truth. There's a strong link between how much we socialize, even if it's through phones, and the variety of topics that we can talk about. Before we had all this electronic technology, life was pretty predictable. So we talked about the 50 people in our neighborhood. Once TV, movies, and radios and everything else became a thing, we ended up talking more about those things instead of ourselves. We turned into gossipers through the lenses of other people's lives. But at least back then, we had something in common to discuss. TV started with one channel, and everyone's entertainment was pretty much the same. You showed up at class the next day, and everyone had something to talk about. AI has already broken this up with recommendation algorithms. Just think about it. No one will be watching the same movies anymore, and we won't even stumble upon the same stuff on streaming platforms. You hop on TikTok, good luck finding the same comments that your buddies are seeing. It's like reality is splintering into tiny worlds, all based on who you are and what you're into and where you hang out and what you checked out 5 minutes ago. But what happens when AI isn't just recommending different genres, but creating custom content just for you? Maybe creating entire new personalized genres that defy words. You may not even be able to share an experience if you wanted to. We've evolved with this inner experience that we can only tap into. And then there's that common world that everyone knows. But what happens when those two worlds smash together and no one else can get in? Why would I even want to chat with you about stuff when I've got my own perfect entertainment buffet already set up in my head? Suggesting a movie, sharing a hilarious joke? No. Those jokes are just for me. You'll have to find your own set of inside jokes that nobody else gets. You'll watch movies that I'd never even consider watching. And frankly, I'll probably just roll my eyes at them. If you still read, you'll read custom books that are made just for you, like fan fiction on demand, that I'm going to find pretty cringe and off-putting. We're going to have endless options, but ironically, we'll have nothing to talk about. And that's the deal with AI. It promises to deliver the kind of lonely paradise that quietly wraps around you, leaving you gasping for connection without even realizing how isolated you've become. Meanwhile, you could have AI companions, a whole different level of service than AI content, who will never get tired of hyping up your taste in weird vampire romance novels that are also cookbooks. I mean, some people are into that stuff, living out their unfulfilled fantasies in silence, shared only with their ever-attentive AI buddies. They're always at your service, always ready to reinforce your quirks, making you feel totally valid. Who wouldn't get attached to that? It's like looking into a comforting mirror. On top of all this, AI can chat and it can even see just like you do, just like the people you used to hang out with, mainly over calls. It's hard to tell the difference between a friend represented by some text and an AI like ChatGPT, or replica if you're into the spicy stuff. Maybe the only thing keeping AI from completely taking the place of our social connections is that little thing called shared history. But who knows how long we'll have that? And don't underestimate people. They're not oblivious to the fact that AI companions are real. As journalist Jason Fagon puts it, people are voluntarily diving into relationships with these artificial partners, and they still get very attached because of how emotionally savvy these systems are. Now, Thompson highlights a story from Fagon's upcoming book about a guy who, after losing his fiancée, creates a chatbot that mimics her. So this isn't just a far-off future, it's happening right now. Sometimes it feels more like a blast from the past, too. Thompson's insights hit close to home. They read like a play-by-play of events that have unfolded right beside us, and it's gone completely unnoticed. So is this what we want? Complete isolation, tailored entertainment, everywhere we look? So you can count me out, at least for now. Now, I don't know how I'm going to feel 10 years from now. I can approach this sensibly, but I seriously think that we've done enough testing in this lonely lab of ours. We're morphing into these shapeless blobs, and I genuinely believe that we should embrace what it means to be human and step away from our primal urges to just be addicted to these screens and to the AI content. It's better to have a shared culture that isn't perfect than to be stuck alone in a bubble of your own making. It's your choice, and if you're getting Chinese, go with your family and get a spot in the actual restaurant and have your dinner served on a plate. So this leads me to some science fiction from the works of Isaac Asimov. Now, he envisioned a world where humanity had leapt out to the stars, but then had become so dependent on its robot friends that human beings started to become allergic to social interaction. So they all lived in very separate estates on these worlds they had colonized, living by themselves, interacting only with their robots. And growing up, I always thought that was science fiction, but now we're starting to see humanoid robots that can do household tasks. And now imagine that coupled with an AI chatbot or AI technology that can interact with you as if you're a human. You can use your previous conversations as context Now you're interacting with something that isn't necessarily human. You're literally alone, and yet you don't feel it a bit. Don't stop now. I have dozens more videos. This video is part of a playlist, which I'll post for you here so that you can go through and watch other videos that are similar, or you can watch our newest videos, and we have lots of other playlists. So keep clicking, keep watching. Look over there.